This year with the World Series, it's been kind of neat to see all that black and white video, black and white film, right? Take it back, the Cubs and the Indians, the last time those teams were there. Kind of a reminder of what baseball was like back in the day. Some of the neat things that we're reminded of, the players were pretty good back then too. Maybe not worried about pitch counts and some of the other things that Coach Ellingham was talking about earlier. Kind of funny to think about that. But if you make it to the major leagues, it doesn't matter what era you play in, you're somebody special. Somebody from right here will be honored tonight for those very reasons. Let's learn more about Jimmy Grant.
Baseball fans in Racine will certainly remember Dwayne Kuiper, Shane Raleigh, Eric Rasmussen, and Don Heinkel as local ball players that made it to the major leagues. But before this quartet ever put on professional uniforms, Jimmy Grant, a stocky, lantern-jawed bundle of determination, was one of the first players from Racine to play in the big leagues. A slick-fielding infielder, Grant was a standout baseball, football, and basketball letterman at Horlick High School in the mid-1930s. He signed a contract in 1939 as a free agent with the Chicago White Sox as a 20-year-old. After 4 solid seasons in the minors, the left-handed batter from Racine made his major league debut with the White Sox, going 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter on September 8, 1942. With the 3-base hit, he broke up a 4-4 tie against the Washington Senators. The next season, Grant played in 58 games with the Chicago Southsiders, batting .247 with 4 home runs. On June 17, 1943, Jim had his best game, going 4 for 6 with a solo home run for the White Sox in a game against the St. Louis Browns. It's noted at the time that he is one of the few sluggers to get a homer inside Chicago's Comiskey Park. In August 1943, his contract was purchased by the Cleveland Indians. He finished that campaign with the Tribe, and then he appeared in 61 games with them in 1944 with a batting average of .273. Jimmy's major league resume showed 146 games played, a .246 career batting average, and 5 home runs, including a career-high 15-game hitting streak with the Sox, and then with Cleveland held an 8-game hitting streak in which he batted .520. In addition to appearances as a pinch hitter, Grant played second base and third base in the majors. Jimmy Grant's time in baseball was plagued by a series of injuries and illness that included 6 operations on both knees, a broken right shoulder, tonsillitis, and the flu. But even in the face of overcoming all those handicaps, that did not stop Jimmy from playing the game. From 1945 to 1949, he played with fierce resolve for 8 different minor league teams, tallying over 700 games, playing in 9 minor league seasons, including a short stint with the Milwaukee Brewers. He ended his career with a very respectable .298 batting average in the minors with 69 home runs. After recovering from his 7th operation, Jimmy Grant died in 1970 at the age of 51 from heart complications.
Earlier tonight, I had the pleasure of meeting Jimmy's son, who will be up here speaking on his behalf. And he said that, and I asked him how he wanted to be introduced. He said, well, you know, I've given up Junior. I don't really use Junior at this stage of my life, but tonight, I think it's fitting. So let's say hello to Jimmy Grant Jr.
Great honor to be able to accept this on behalf of my father, the late Jimmy Grant. He would have been pleased and very proud. Also sharing in this honor with me this evening is my sister Judy and her husband Don Lentz, my youngest brother Barry and his lovely wife Angelica from Los Angeles, my nephew Wade Lentz and his lovely wife Sandra, my nephew Corey Lentz, who came all the way up from Florida to be here this evening. My middle brother Kurt was unable to make this occasion tonight, so he sent his daughter Jessie. She drove all the way up from North Carolina today. And I live in Arkansas, so as you can tell, Dad's legacy is scattered from coast to coast and points in between. I want to convey a special thanks to my Aunt Shirley Pavkovich and her late husband George for their tireless efforts in bringing this validation of Dad's baseball career to fruition this evening. Thanks again, Auntie. Good having you. The legacy of Jimmy Grant is one of a baseball career cut short due to injuries and a life cut short due to unusual circumstances. Dad was born on October the 6th, 1918, to Ralph and Lillian Grant. And as part of the large family during the Great Depression, sports were relied upon quite heavily for a means of entertainment and also a potential chance to escape some of the conditions that the Depression brought upon people. Dad was a gifted athlete, very talented, and he excelled in quite a few sports, football being one of them. And it was during a high school football game while playing for Horlick High that he sustained a knee injury that would go on to plague him through most of his professional career. During the mid-30s, Dad played for several semi-pro teams in the Racine area and was discovered by a scout for the Chicago White Sox as a hard-hitting and hard-throwing middle infielder. Dad played in the minors for several years, but as usual, injuries seemed to curtail him completing full seasons. But in 1942, he was leading AAA, which is the highest level of minor leagues. He was leading the league in batting average and runs batted in when the White Sox brought him to the major leagues. But as usual, injuries always intervened, and he found himself playing with the Cleveland Indians. And in 1944, he separated his shoulder. And from that point on, he was pretty much signaled the end of his career as he was unable to make that long throw from third to first. But during his tenure in the majors, he played with some of the greatest names in baseball for that particular era, the likes of Ted Williams, Bob Feller, Luke Appling, Ken Keltner, and Lou Boudreau. And as the film showed, Dad went to the minor leagues for several years and managed and played. And then around 1950, he decided to retire, and then he became a concrete contractor in the Racine area. And he enjoyed success for several decades in that capacity until certain instances came and made some drastic changes in his life. Shortly after Thanksgiving in 1968, the love of Dad's life and our wonderful loving mother, the former Luella Sandin, passed away unexpectedly from a brief battle with pneumonia. She was only 48 years old. Her passing was a loss that Dad never really recuperated from, and it was shortly within that same year or the next year when he had to undergo a open heart surgery to replace a defective valve in his heart. And he made a normal recovery, and then he continued a somewhat limited lifestyle for a while. But then he started experiencing dental issues, which he chose to ignore. And it was unbeknownst to Dad. Well, let's put it this way. There were very few things in life that my father ever feared, but unfortunately a dentist was at the top of the short list. I think we all can attest to that one. Anyways, infection from the bad teeth began to dissolve the sutures around his new valve, and which necessitated a second surgery. And it was during that second surgery that Dad passed away. Sister Judy and I were present when he did pass up in Rochester, Minnesota. Dad's love of baseball never diminished, but being a conservative and old school type of ball player that he was, there are a lot of things in today's game I know that he wouldn't approve of, such as the high salaries, steroids, designated hitter, and all the showboating that goes on. But the one thing that would have absolutely driven him over the edge would be batting gloves. He didn't even wear gloves in the wintertime to keep his hands warm. Well, as I said, Dad was a wonderful, loving father, husband, and for too short of a time, a grandfather. And it's with great pride that I accept this on behalf of Dad and the Grant family. And I thank you for your kind attention and wish you all a very happy evening.
Congratulations, Jimmy, very nicely done.